The following presentation was recorded live in Las Vegas, Nevada for the 27th Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is Tape 7, Contra Traditional Session.
To my right is Betsy and as soon as we can run her down, Yona Chock will be in. And this is the Contra Traditional Session. And we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun this afternoon. My name is Cal Campbell. To my right is Betsy and Yona Chock will be the other person on the panel as soon as she shows up. We're going to be looking at traditional square dancing and contra dancing this afternoon. And as far as I can tell, we have a number of members of the enthusiastic choir here, and we hopefully have a number of new people because we're going to approach it from the aspect that some of you know very little about this subject and wish to know more. Just a little bit of a background on the part of where we're coming from. What we now know as modern Western square dancing has only existed since about 1951-52. Up until that point in time, we had in the early 1900s, what was called square dancing, or what we now call quadrilles. So we're going to try and give you a couple examples of those sometime this afternoon. And then, through evolution of time, we worked into the modern idea of a caller standing up there and giving instructions, and you spontaneously following those instructions. But up until about the early 50s, and Stu could probably tell you better than I can, up until the early 50s, almost everything that we called in terms of square dancing was a set routine. When I grew up on the western slope of Colorado, we went to a dance, and when we did the Arkansas Traveler, we did it a specific way. And we didn't vary that way 1 ounce. If we did, some old duffer would come up to me when I was, first learning how to do this, and would thump me on the chest right here and say, "Sonny, you don't know how to call the Arkansas Traveler." And so these were very set routines, very much in the same context as we had quadrilles in the early part of the century. Jim Mayo is now doing a research effort to try and figure out when the first singing call showed up. And he's already back to, I think it's 1863 or 64, that he has found a reference to the first singing call. So this is not necessarily a new thing, but the singing calls were done one way. There might have been in Denver an entirely different way to do it, and they called it the Arkansas Traveler. But in a little old bitty town on the western slope of Rifle where I grew up, the Arkansas Traveler is what they knew of it. And this is true all the way across the United States. So with that as a background, I want to turn this over to Betsy, and she has got a neat presentation, and then we're going to go to Yona, and then we'll follow up with me and some miscellaneous irrelevant comments when these two get done, really with the education.
That was irrelevant, not irreverent, right? No, it's what fits Cal, because those were his comments. I do have what I'm going to talk about in type form. My first apology is that with all the best plans that anyone can have, page 1 and page 3 got copied back to back, and page 2 stands on its own. Yeah, that would be great. I'll start talking while they hand them out. Okay. Now, what I started off saying is modern Western square dancers know what they know, and they can be very resistant to trying something new or different. Most of the folks in the square dance world today, and I made this point last night, there are more. Yep. Most of the folks in the square dance world today started dancing after CALLERLAB became an entity, after the programs were developed, and they have never known what us old folk, Cal and me and Yona, old folk in dancing that is. Don't laugh, I have been dancing 45 years. That makes me an old dancing folk in this activity. I'm sure.
I only ran onto one person here was older.
Okay, but anyway, they have the folks who dance modern Western club type square dancing have never had the experiences that we have, and they aren't familiar with the traditional visiting couple dances, the dances that were done in the 50s that were like the transition from the set pattern quadrilles to what we do now. They don't know any of this. So if you go to present it, they can be very resistant because all of a sudden you're taking what they know and you're telling them they don't know it. At least that's how it feels to them. So it's like marketing, it's perceptions. In my opinion, you need to sell the idea first of the fact that we're going to do something different. It's a change of pace, and you need to do a really good, quick teach to get them moving. You can't have people standing around too long, or they will basically be turned off before they've had the joy of experiencing this different dance experience. There are possible ways of selling the things are a dance sampler night. Now what that means is, or what our club did at home, it's a Western Square Dance Club, a mainstream club, we did a sample of different types of dancing that was all under the Square Dance umbrella. We did a visiting couple type dance. We did a couple of contras, one in lines, one in a circle. We did a regular modern tip. We did some line dancing. We did some round dancing, old and new. We tried to present as many different things as we could present in one evening, and advertised it as a different experience, so that the people, when they came out to this dance, they knew that they were in for something different, and they weren't feeling like they were all coming out to something and paying for what they hadn't expected. A change of pace. Our club at home for a while went through something called the wacky tip. Now that didn't necessarily have to be traditional, it was just something different. It could be you danced while trying to keep a balloon in the air, but it also allowed for us to present a contra or a visiting couple. This is the slightly wacky, and I'll put that term in quotes, idea of the evening. A historical theme. I personally find it fascinating, and I don't know enough, although I've grown up doing certain things. I find it fascinating to link what we do now with where it came from. Some of the history of even of the modern calls, the Dixie style to an ocean wave exists now, but nobody who dances currently, or few people who dance currently, remember Dixie chain, which is where it came from. And so if you can link things to what they know, then the dancers find it an interesting experience. Once you've got that idea sold, or how you're going to sell it, then you need to figure out what you can present and how you can put it in terms that the current square dancers can understand. You keep the teach short and translate, and then go back to your traditional pattern as they're getting through the pattern of the dance, because they're not dumb. They're going to learn the pattern of the dance, and then you can start to change the terms that you use so that it's to the stuff that you knew and loved as a child, so to speak. Or I knew and loved as a child. How do you find these? Well, you can research, basically. You check your library. There are a lot of square dance books, old-time type square dance books, are in libraries, practically forgotten. And if you check out a book in square dancing in a library, it's Square Dances of Today, and then you check the front page, and it was published in 1935. This will provide some really good material, which is not done, quote, now. At the National Square Dance Convention, you can pick up the Contra syllabus, which will give you access to various different dances, and you attend sessions like this. Now, the next part talks about setting up a contra line, and I'm not going to go over that specifically. Not step by step. The simplest way for me to set up a contra line is to invite some brave couple to come down and stand facing me with the man on the left and the lady on the right, and then everybody else line up behind them. That clears a lot of air. Then you face your partner, or actually, if you have couple 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., roll away with a half sachet, and then turn and face your partner. You have what I consider the best forum to introduce contra dancing to modern square dancers, because it's what we call an improper dance. The men and the ladies are not all on the same side, and modern dancers are used to having the men and the ladies mixed in together. It's what they call a duple, which means it's done in subsets of two couples within the whole entire set of the contra line. Duple comes, you can relate it to double, and it's two couples, and you dance with them, and then you either move one place closer to me, the caller, or one place closer to the door, and don't go out it. And then you dance in a new group of 4, and you move up and down the line, and this is the sort of idea that you present to the modern dancers. If you want to set up, and there's a different form called a Beckett form, where your partner is next to you as opposed to across from you, then I could let the dancers square up in squares and have the head couples lead out to the right, circle to a line, and join the 2 squares together. And then you've got a contra line. Simplest way, get it done quickly. I have there's a lot of other formations for contras, and I've made a list and basically talked about what I consider the pros and cons of presenting these type of dances to your modern square dance, club dancers. There's a Sicilian circle, which is basically couple facing couple around either counterclockwise or clockwise around the room, and you can pass through, move on to the next, or however your dance program takes you. This is wonderful if you have a large crowd, and really doesn't work if you have 6 couples. It's not going to make it. There's Mescalanza, which is lines of 4 couples facing up and down the room. And again, you need a larger crowd. And then we have the duple, which is 2 couples dancing in subsets. There's a triple, which is 3 couples dancing in subsets, which is a neat variety. But if you get up near the caller, you run out of people, you have to wait out through the dance. You have to wait out twice. And this gives a very slow start for those of us who are used to moving all the time in your club dancing. We're used to moving 6, 7, 8 people all at a time. Well, how do you move 7? I don't know. But they're not used to standing at the top of the set, and they think they've done something wrong if they wait out that long. So that can be a detriment to getting that idea across easily. The other problem with a triple is at the bottom, that's the part of the line away from the collar. You have head and feet in Contra as opposed to heads and sides. We don't have all the body parts anywhere. But starting from the neck up. At the bottom, the group of 3 has to work with people that aren't there. Phantoms, ghosts, however you wish to term them, little folks that are dancing that aren't there, in order to make sure that the people who are the last people in the line start to move up towards the caller again. Otherwise, they're stuck there for the rest of the time, and they never seem to get anywhere. And the concept of dancing with people that aren't there can be a very difficult concept for anyone. Some of us see people that aren't there all the time, but that's another matter.
They can't dance.
No, mine do. That's what's scary. We've already talked about the proper duple, or improper duple. The proper duple is where all the men and all the ladies are on the same line. If you look at movies where they're doing minuets and colonial-type dancing, all the ladies were on one side and all the men were on the other side. I believe it may have even gone so far as some places didn't mix the sexes when they sat in church. It was improper for folks to mix, especially unmarried young ladies weren't supposed to be close to unmarried young men. Or married. That would be even worse, you're right. Now, the problem with the proper set is there are no easy clues for where your subsets are. When you have the improper, you alternate men, lady, man, lady, man, lady, and so you can tell, there are 4 of you with the varied sexes, you can tell where your subset is going to begin. For the improper, or for the proper duple, you must, the people dancing the, quote, active part, or the people who are moving away from the caller must remember who they are. And that's another thing that square dancers may not be used to finding, so they could lose themselves within the dance. And a proper triple combines the problems of the other 2 that I've just mentioned. I think you need experienced contra dancers to really enjoy a proper triple. They have to have done the dancing before and have some confidence in themselves in order to enjoy that pattern. Then I have a double couple, which is a line of 4 people between 2 facing couples. It's kind of like a squared up set, but there's 4 dancers at the number 1 spot and no dancers at the number 3 spot. And that's very fun for like some experienced dancers, and there's some really neat dances like that. But that's something to aim towards. You wouldn't present something like this necessarily for their first non-Western square dance experience. And then we have a concentric circle, which would be couples facing couples in a circle, half of them with their backs to the center and half of them with their backs to the wall, which is kind of a variation of the Sicilian circle. And again, you need a large group. Now, I have a sheet that I have presented, which I've used before, but these are contra dances that I personally find useful and interesting to it's the 3rd page in the handout. Interesting and useful to present to modern square dancers. I stapled yours backwards, didn't I? All of them are just a little bit different. They're not specifically modern, But what they get away from is the repetition of the same calls over and back. Like a lot of Contras have a ladies chain, and the ladies chain over, and then the ladies chain back. And as I understand it, part of that comes from the fact that originally the ladies chain figure was over and back. What we do today would be, in traditional sense, 1/2 of a ladies chain. So that to double it meant that you were doing the full figure, the right and left through, over and back. Now, modern square dancers aren't used to repeating the same calls necessarily one right after the other, so they don't find a lot of pleasure initially. And I say initially, you have to get people used to a different pace. They don't find a lot of pleasure initially in doing a dance that has a lot of repetition of figures, where you have a ladies chain over, a ladies chain back, a right and left through over, right and left through back, a star by the left, a star by the right. Those of us who are dancing for the pleasure of dancing contras don't care if the figures repeat at this point. We're dancing for something different. But the square dancers have, in clubs today, have been brought up to puzzle solve. There's no puzzle to these dances after a point. So before they get the joy of dancing with the music and the fact that you can flirt like mad, another added advantage to doing contras, before they get to that part, they've already been turned off by the fact that this is boring. This is like lessons. I don't want to do it. And they never ever get the feel of the beauty of the dance. So each one of these dances is kind of designed to have be a little bit different all the way through, without being mind-boggling to anybody. And I have done several of them with my senior group, who dance somewhere in the middle of the basic program, and quite successfully they can all do these dances. So they're not hard dances, they're just not repetitious, and that's why I've picked them. I wasn't necessarily going to present them today, but I had... How am I doing on time?
Oh, yeah, you're in good shape.
Okay. I wanted to share some more traditional dances, which I think the experienced Western square dancers would enjoy. Now, we're not set up for dancing in this room. Can we spread the chairs back?
Okay. If you would, please. Well, let's
Okay.
set up a good area right down the middle, because I'm also going to want it, and I think you are too.
Yeah.
You know, so let's get the chairs out in the corner. You have a very difficult time trying to get the hotel personnel and understand how we want rooms set up. Nothing in the middle. We had the same problem for the seminar. We had to come in and redo the room.
If that's the worst of our worries, then we're fine. May I have at least a square? In a square, yes.
Fiddle in there.
Yeah, well, it's fiddling there on both sides.
Okay.
Just don't get the collar for the same time.
Got it.
Okay. Now, Texas Star. The first part of the call, and I'm going to walk you through it, will be ladies go forward and back. And what I've done on the handout is to put the call that I would use in capital letters, and then the actual direction of what I hope that you will do in the parentheses, in the parenthetical phrase. That's our educational words for today. Yes. So the ladies go forward and back. The call will actually be ladies center back to the bar. I don't know what the bar is, but it rhymes with star, and I'm sure that's why it was used. Now, men go in and make a right-hand star. Okay. Now make a left-hand star. This is not the call part. Pass your partner by and pick up the next lady's star promenade. Now stop turning for just a second while I talk. Notice that all of the terms that I've used so far, any Western-style square dancer can understand. I haven't given anything that's really strange. The only thing that's a little bit different is you normally, and if anybody uses star promenade in modern club dancing today, you pick up your partner 99 and 3/4% of the time. Nobody picks up anybody else than that. Okay, now, the men back out, let the ladies start. Keep your arms around each other. We don't do that too much in modern dancing anymore. And turn the star the other way around. Now, when I was a mere child and doing this dance, we used to back out with like a 1.5 or a 2.5 turn. Stop turning so you don't get dizzy, please. I'm not sure, depending on the age level of the group that you're presenting it to, whether I would actually go for a 1.5 or a 2.5 turn. But you could talk about it. Okay. Ladies back out. Let the men star again. Okay. Break and swing your partner, or your current partner. So you back out and swing the lady you have. And promenade her home. Contra dancers, the traditional contra dancers twirl at the drop of a hat. And swing like crazy. An 8-beat swing in contra dancing is considered a short swing. 12 beats is reasonable. 16 is okay. Okay, get your own lady back, original partner back, and let's try this with some music. Now the point is, if you repeat this dance 3 times, you're all going to get back home with your partner with any luck. Well, after the first one, 3 times after. Bow to the partner, and turn and bow to the corner too. Now ladies center and back to the bar. Now gentlemen center with the right hand star, you turn it. And left hand back, pass your partner by. Pick up the next girl on the fly, star promenade. Now the men back out, let the ladies star go the other way back. Oh, there we got a 1.5 in, you notice? Now ladies back out with a 1.5. And let the men star again. Back out, swing your current partner, swing her there. And promenade around that ring, you promenade that lady, there you go. You take her right back home. Now ladies center and back to the bar. Gentlemen center with a right hand star. Right hand out and left hand back and make your feet go wickety-whack. Pass your partner by, pick up the next one on the fly. Now the men back out and the ladies swing in, and you turn that star with the pretty ones in. Now the ladies back out and circle left. And swing your partner. And promenade that lady. You take her right back home. So that's how you would work the traditional sort of wording into your call. That's sufficient. Thank you. All right. Oh, nice dancing. Yes, give them a hand. All the ladies want to get back to your partner. Do you folks want to dance another sample, or do we want to get some other people up here? Excellent.
Broke 'em in good.
I broke them in well. Let's change records here. Now the next dance is 3 ladies chain across. Same problem. Don't get the collar on there. A 3 ladies chain. Couple 1, go out, lead out to the right. And lead out to the right is still a call, so the dancers know it. Circle 4 all the way around. This part could be a challenge for your modern club dancers. Don't laugh. Circle 4 all the way around is a concept that we have lost. Okay, now what we are going to do in this dance pattern will be the ladies are going to chain all the way across. So first the 2 ladies who are facing chain, go. And the gentleman in the center will go, go all the way around in another half, while the other guy normally courtesy turns, and then you chain with a new lady. And then the guy in the center goes all the way around, and you chain back. Good thing it's Stu. Anybody else would be getting inner ear discomfort. Keep chaining until, okay, and you get your own back, so you keep right on going. Fancy schmancy, yes. All right. Now, once you've gotten your own lady back, you go on to the next. So you go over to couple 3. Now there's no couple 1, so you can't do the chain pattern. What do? Well, you have an opportunity here for 2 possibilities. One is you can circle to the left halfway, dive through, swing your partner in the middle if you so desire, and go out and face couple 4 and repeat the ladies' chain pattern. But go back to number 3 for a second. This is a chance to introduce another visiting couple type pattern so that you can add to the dancer's experience in one dance time by basically doing 2 different dances. Circle to the left halfway. Now, couple, don't let go of any hands. Couple 3, raise up the hands between you and make an arch. Couple 1, dive through. Duck for the oyster. Now back out. Couple 1, make an arch. Couple 3, dive through. Dig for the clam. And couple 1, dive on through. Swing your partner in the middle and take her on. Now you have given the dancers 2 different dances experiences in one dance. And one of the things that I have in the handout is to talk about what I call the dance sampler, not the dance sampler idea, the dance medley. so that if you've done this for your group a couple of different times, you guys can go back home. I don't think you have to rehearse that one more time. If you've done different patterns for the dance group one more time, you could actually do a visiting couple dance where couple 1 did, say, Duck for the Oyster, and couple 2 did Round That Lady and Take a Little Peek, and couple 3 did something else, and right, Grapevine Twist. You could do 4 different traditional dances in one set. And that would give the modern dancer the variety that they are used to and still give them a whole sample of what the traditional dances were. Let's see if we can do this with music. Bow to the partner. You turn and bow to the corner too, and the first old couple bow and swing. Now lead on out to the right of the ring. Circle left all the way around. 3 ladies chain, the ladies chain here. Gentlemen turn once and a half, and then chain the ladies over and back. You turn them round and keep on chaining there. You chain them high and chain them low, and chain that ocean wave about. Keep turning. You chain them on, you go. You better make up some patter for this. I don't think I have enough. And now go on to the next and circle to the left halfway. Now couple 3 make an arch and duck for the oyster, duck. Now dig for the clam, couple 3 go through. And then couple 1 dive on through, swing your lady in the middle, and then take her on, face couple 4 and circle all the way around. That gives you a chance to get undizzy, huh? Now ladies chain across. You chain the ladies over, and then 3 ladies chain again. You chain them back, my friend, and once and a half, and then keep turning. You chain the ladies down the line, and then once and a half, you're doing fine. And the ladies chain over you go, and now you chain them again one more time around, you know. And the last one, all the ladies chain right there. Everybody swing your partner, everybody swing, and you promenade around that ring. You promenade that lady, go walking around that town, big foot up and the little one down. You take her right back home, you know. Thank you, Cal. And you better warn people if you're going to present that anyone who gets dizzy easily should perhaps forego this experience. Now, that was the music for that one was a singing column, Royal Records, Too Old to Cut the Mustard, Royal 511. Any hoedown would do. Basically, I just picked some records that I normally use for patter that is, Okay. You guys dizzy yet? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
but I bet you don't want to sit down. Okay, let's try this a little differently this time. The last dance that I was going to present is I learned it as a child as I think the right hand high and the left lady under, and I was researching in a book that said pass the left lady under. It's basically the same principle. You could have one couple lead out to the right, but you can also modernize it. Let's work with the sides for a minute. Side 2 couples lead out to the right. Circle up 4 with all your might. Leave the lady there and gent go home alone. So you leave her there and you go home, and this lucky headman has 2 ladies. Forward 6 and back. And the lonesome men do a do-si-do. It keeps you out of trouble. Now, we've got a great ringer here in our headmen, I know. Basically, what's going to happen is you raise up the hands between the gentleman and the lady on his right. That make an arch. So that's the right hand high. The left lady is going to duck under the arch. You can twirl no times, or you can twirl as many times as the ladies desire and go and stand beside the lonely side men because they've been lonely long enough. Go forward 6 and back. And the new lonesome men do a do-si-do. So now, raise up your right hand with that lady. You're going to make an arch. The ladies, you're looking towards the man that you're going to go to. So right hand high, left lady under. Twirl the girls and go like thunder. Now, ladies, you can if you get dizzy easily, you just turn and walk over there and back into place. And if you don't get dizzy easily, you can spin around 47 times if you can manage it. Okay. You got music for me?
What would you like to have?
I don't care.
Oh, okay. In that case, I get to choose.
Cal gets to choose. This is going to be really an adventure.
I'm going to bomb you.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Square up.
I won't do what I was going to do to you.
Thank you.
Let's do this. Come on, do something.
I love technology. Hey, bound to the partner. You turn and bound to the corner too. And now, side 2 cup of lead out to the right. You circle up 4 with all your might and leave that lady there, and the side men go home alone. Forward 6 and back. And the lonesome men do a do-si-do. It's back to back you go. Well, now the right hand high and the left lady under. Twirl the girls, they go to the side men, and everybody go forward 6 and back. And the lonesome men do a do-si-do. And now right hand high and the left lady under, and the ladies go like thunder. Forward 6 and back. Those lonesome men do a do-si-do. Now right hand high and the left lady under, ladies twirl and you go like thunder, forward 6 and back, you know. And now those lonesome men do a do-si-do. Right hand high and the left lady under, twirl the girls and home you go and swing your partner. Everybody swing 'em there he was. Promenade around that way, you promenade that lady fair, and take her right back home. You get her back home and then bow to the partner. You turn and bow to the corner too. Okay, thank you for dancing.
Give her a hand. That's tough to do. I mean, to walk into a piece, and I picked the wrong one. So, all righty. Would you please give a good hand to Yona Chock, and we'll continue with her. On a microphone, would you come up and say you?
So we don't have gaps in the tape.
Yeah, gaps in the tape are terrible. Not loud.
Yes. I'm Rolly Williams, and I'm program chairman for the 49th National Convention in Baltimore. My question is, in regards to your syllabus, does the syllabus change each year, or are they repetitious from one year to the next, and they don't need to be changed each year?
The Contra dance syllabi, each year people send in dances that they are going to present. There is some repetition, but there are usually different dances found, so that it is important to get as many as possible, because you may miss a dance. So no, it's not always the same dance as presented.
I think we have pretty much standardized having a contra dance vocabulary at the beginning, so that people coming in cold have a kind of a lead-in. So the front part, the basics, is more or less standardized. But the dances depend on who's calling and what they want to call.
And also, people are choreographing contra dances and every day, and a lot of times they will present them new at the National Convention. They'll present the dance that they've been working on for the last 6 months, so it may never have been seen anywhere except that caller's home club.
Okay, Cal, would you put your hand on my knee when it's time for me to slow down and stop?
I would have thought that would have had the
way to get my attention nowadays.
I would have thought that would have had the reverse.
No, actually. Okay, Betsy calls for a Western Square Dance Club. So her dancers, she knows exactly what they know because she probably taught them. I call for schools, recreation centers, public dances, church groups, and everything. So I have no idea what I'm getting into when I call a dance. The first thing I have to do at every dance is ask the question I'm going to ask now. How many of you have danced Contra? Raise your hands. How many of you have danced Contra with a traditional group to live music? How many of you have called Contra to live music? I mean, besides you, Stu. Okay, those of you who did not raise your hand any time, my first recommendation is you find out where they're dancing traditional and Contra, and usually the two go together. Go dance with them a time or two. See what's going on the other side of the fence. I've heard too many Western callers say, oh, they're still doing that same old stuff, and they haven't danced in 40 years. How do they know what's being danced in traditional halls if they don't occasionally go put their nose in the door and find out? I write Contras. Betsy, I'm sure you write Contras. Almost everybody I know puts dances together for special occasions, for special geographic locations, Every time you go someplace, I rode a Contra on the roof of a building in Cincinnati called the Central Trust Contra with Paul Moore, because we decided we wanted to use a cross trail through, and we were standing up on the roof looking out, and there was a Central Trust Bank sign lit up, so it became the Central Trust Contra written on the spot for that dance. It happens often. New stuff coming up all the time. Some of it's incorporating Western square dance calls, and the most amazing thing in the traditional Contra group that I call for at home, we have one young caller who has discovered a website where people use Western terms, and he's discovered that he can use all these neat new terms in his dances. So when he calls a Contra, he's calling a Western square dance and doesn't know it, and neither do the dancers. And I'm not telling them. They're having fun. Let them go. Okay, another thing that I do is I try to have a printed sheet like this. This is a little booklet that we use in presenting American folk dance. I never say square dance. It has a bad reputation in some areas. This has not all, doesn't have mescalonza or doesn't have a couple other formations, but these are all different formations that you can dance in traditional American square dancing. Square is only one formation. It's good for squares and quadrilles. All the others, the serpentines, the circles, the lines where you break them up in different things, the grid pattern that they do for solo and line dancing, there's all those other different ways that are traditional. I've been dancing over half a century now. And in the antique business, that means anything that I learned as a kid, that's tradition. So go for it. A lot of people have dances that they know from the old days that now are considered traditional dances. I made up a Contra dance vocabulary sheet to pass out. This is a work in progress. It is not written in stone yet. So if you would pick up copies, if you find something you don't agree with, please make a notation or come up and make a notation on my copy, and we'll try to get it standardized so that everybody understands what everybody else is talking about. I usually start doing... Well, the way I usually start a dance when I don't know what I'm doing is I will tell people to get a buddy. This means that if it's a school group, they can find a friend of the same sex. It doesn't have to be somebody of the other sex. We have them do circles, stars, do-si-dos, pass through, promenade, find another buddy. All of those things lead into two couples promenading together to meet another two couples, and then doing everything all over again. Forehand circle right and left, forehand star, do-si-do back to back, right people do-si-do diagonally, left people do-si-do diagonally, couples do-si-do around each other, do-si-do 1.5, promenade, find another couple. Eventually, we get them all promenading in one direction around the room, and as they go by, we count them off, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All the ones, the odd ones, wheel around. You have a Sicilian circle. You can then continue to do 62 of the calls on the mainstream list, I think it is, from two couples facing. And you can dance them right through most of the mainstream programs, save your Alamandar stars till the very end, and have them dancing all those square dance calls in a Sicilian circle, moving on to the next person. The reason I do that when we're teaching in schools, well, anywhere really, is that if you put them in squares, you can have 7 people sitting along the sidelines because you're short one person for a square. If you're doing it in 4 couples, the most that sit out at any one time is 3 people. And I usually empower them as phantoms to stalk the other dancers and tap them on the shoulder and take their place when there's an opportunity to break into the dance. But it keeps everybody moving all the time. To me, it's a lot friendlier than some of the square dancing where you're standing with your back to most of the room, only facing 3 of the couples. All right, everybody, start clapping real loud. Yay! Cheer, clap. We're having more fun than they are. Go. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Thank you very much. Thank you very much, please. I love that standing ovation. Okay. If you're coming to the Contra and Traditional Dance Committee meeting, I inadvertently announced this one instead of my committee meeting. I will have some additional handouts on Contra and the Contra vocabulary. This is my dance program, 7 pages of how to introduce any kind of dancing to anybody. And one of the things I do is get people into a grand march. How many of you use grand march to get people on the floor? Everybody up with boys on this side, girls on that side. Now, do it. Up, stand up. Pencils down. You don't need to take notes on this. It's too simple. Boys on this side, girls on that side. If we get a surplus, I'll show you how we fix that. This is the head of the hall. That's the foot of the hall. Can I have Jane, would you be the marshal to stand down there and make sure nobody else goes out that door? You're going to march toward the back of the hall, and a lot of dance figures come from military drill formations. Our grand square, it was used in Napoleonic times as a drill formation for the soldiers. So you're going to march toward the back wall, make a sharp corner, march toward Jane in the middle, and she will direct you to face up as you march up in a double column. And I tell boys to put their hands on their hips like this because it's macho. Girls can just link their little delicate hands through the boy's elbow. If I find when I'm doing this with school kids, and sometimes with adults, that the boys start shuffling so they get a particular girl, I just turn around and start from this end of the line. No problem. Okay, can I have some music? And heaven knows what he's got this time. Big breath, stomachs in, shoulders back, forward, march. Turn, march up toward the front of the room. First couple left, next couple right. First two couples make up a line of 4. Split the line of 4, alternate. Split them, half one way, half, split the lines, fight it out among yourselves. Okay, when those two couples meet, the ones on this side, raise your hands, make an arch, and the other couples go under. We're going to make a long tunnel. Make an arch, not up the middle, around the outside. You guys split. I'll go back there and direct traffic.
Yona's now going to the back of the room, direct traffic. And I'm going to keep talking so don't get too much of a blank space with people. She is now bringing the people up. Oh, she's carrying one line as an arch over the other line. So we have one line moving counterclockwise and one line moving clockwise. And the people going clear over the other line. Now she's going to reverse the process. The line that was arching now becomes a line that dives through the other tunnel. At this point in time, everybody is down to the foot of the hall. They're going to arch and dive over the other set. So they arch underneath one and dive over the other one. So they're alternating, dipping and diving, essentially, over the other line. Back to you, honey.
Make the tunnel on this side. Everybody go around so you can... And keep going, keep going. Don't stop the tunnel. You notice everybody was laughing at the back of the hall? Remember they said square dancing is fun? That's one of the ways. When you reach the back of the hall, alternate. Turn and come up the middle, one couple behind the other. Just sort of dovetail in. First couple, second one behind, next. When you get up to the front, mark time and place. Count out 4 couples. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide with your partner to the side. Gallop, 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 gallop. Over there. Get over there. March up. Next 4. Slide that way. Keep coming straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a problem here. Stay put. You're fine. We got 2 couples in the back. Back up a little bit. That 2 couple. We got 4 couple sets. Actually, we got more. Okay, stop the music. This is one way of getting them into contra dancing that's fun. They've already learned how to do the side slip gallop to the side when they're in a big circle. So that when they come up here, I just say, you 4 gallop this way, the others come on up. Gallop that way, next 4 come on up. We get in a big gym, we get 4 or 5 lines across, and then move back and stop the next lines at the next level. It's a real easy way to put them into this formation. From this formation, I have one dance that I use all the time. One couple back there can move up. And we have 2 people that got left out, and we got a lot of sitters around the side here snickering. Okay, it's one of the rules. You can sit it out, but you can't laugh. Yes?
This hand's the front side of your cassette.
He's turning the tape. Say anything I want right now because it's not back on? Oh, darn. There goes my only window. Okay, the dance that I use in the schools to start the kids with is called Farmer's Jig. I've called it at ContraLab before. How many of you have ever done it? In that case, back up, Stu. Back your whole line up. Next, back up. Starts real simple. We can use any music for this. There is a record for it, but we'll just use whatever you got in the little box right there. It starts coming up 8 steps. Don't do it, just listen. You march up 8 steps. You turn toward your partner because it's friendly to turn toward face to face. Don't turn your back on anybody. That's rude.
Okay, we're teaching manners, and we're giving the reason for it. You're going to march up 7 steps. We're going to turn around and go back down. So on 8, make sure you're not still walking forward, because otherwise, when your partner leaves, you're gone. Then we're going to march down 7 steps. Then we're going to face our partners, and we're going to have the boys hook fingers up and girls hook fingers down and connect. Don't let go, because you need to keep your partner with you. We've done something else. We've got them touching hands, but I never said hold hands with a girl. Never say that. And girls know not to hold hands with boys because they can get pregnant that way. Their mother told them so. Okay, this set needs to move back a little bit too, so you got a little bit of room to move up in. The next figure after you have done a gallop up, sachet, slip step, whatever you want to call it, up and slip down. Again, 7 up, stop, down 7, stop. You make a right-hand star at the top and a right-hand star at the bottom. Turn this right-hand star 7 steps, turn around, come back the other way. You're doing 8 counts of music, but you have to remember to leave time for the turnaround. You'll end up where you are now. And you should be facing up, just like this. So the whole first part of the dance achieves absolutely nothing. The next thing we do is we have our number 1 couples lead the march. Everybody follow the person directly in front of them, down to the foot, make a 2-hand arch. Everyone goes past them and comes up under the arch. But in this particular dance, it's timed so that the march up starts while some people are still coming under the arch, which means that if you are an archer, you will be trampled when the rest of them turn around and march down. You have been warned. There's the other point that you need to know is that when you make your stars after the first time, there'll be new people in the stars. So I've done several things here. I've taught them some of the manners. I've taught them that it's a challenge for them to do this, and that the dance is designed as a trap to try and trick them. I've given them the clues to let them succeed at the dance. We usually play it through at a slower speed the first time. The second time, we speed it up. Let's see what we got for music. Heaven help us. March up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Reverse. Go down. Smile at your partner. You might need to ask her for a job someday. Gallop up. Gallop down. Right hand stars, get right hands up. Oh good, you guys are smart. Left hand. You all know which one is right and left. Leaders, face out, go down the outside. Make your arch, follow the leaders. Listen closely, here comes the marching music. March, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. March down, look out arches. Gallop. Reverse. Right hand stars. New people, new people, new people. Wakey, wakey. Reverse. New leaders, you're in charge. Take your people with you. Reach back and grab them by the nose. If they aren't with their partners, they can't come under the arch. You have permission to lower the arch. Marching up. Okay, Cal. Marching down. Cal. We can stop any time now. They know what they're doing. Okay.
Ben,
the 4-person star, 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom.
For the purposes of the people listening to the tape, this dance is limited to 4 couples in each set. So just for the people on the tape, it's limited to 4 couples in each set.
It is not necessary to have opposite sexes. You could dance this with 8 warm bodies of any denomination. What we do is we dance it with them at this tempo, and then we say, okay, would you like to do it at the real tempo, and then we speed it up. They do it through 2 times. The first time is like a rehearsal. The second time, they're exhausted. We tell them, sit down right where you are on the gym floor, or if they're grown-ups, take your partner to the side and sit down. They commiserate with each other. If they've never danced before, they trust the person that they managed to get through this with, and that's who they'll pick for a partner the next time I say, find a partner. They'll run diagonally all the way across the gym to get somebody trustworthy. Anyway, this little dance is called Farmer's Jig. It's an old English country dance, barn dance, whatever you want to call it. And thank you very much. You may sit down now. You've done good. Give yourselves a hand. Actually, I have variable speed, so if it's...
Question was, how much do you slow it down?
Yeah. I have a variable speed system from Hilton, and we'll start it slowed down a couple of cranks. If I see that they're catching it, I'll begin to bring it up. just a quarter turn on the dial. I'm sorry, I can't tell you. If it's so slow that you're likely to lose balance walking, that's too slow. But you need to reward them for doing it better by moving the speed up. But I usually wait till the second time around to do that and let them know that it is a reward. And that works not only with kids, but with grown-ups and with senior citizens as well. Do I have that on a written form? No, I do not have that. I have the my teaching thing, which I'll be discussing in the education class if you want to. I can make copies if you will leave me a name and address, or if you have email, I can email it to you and I can get it to you that way. I haven't written it out step by step. Farmers, did you mean just the dance choreography? Yeah, I do have that somewhere here. I'm not sure I have enough to go around, but it's an easy one. Are there any other questions? Sir.
Please come to the mic to ask your question so we get it on the tape.
What is the smallest, the youngest age, and do they learn quickly, or do you have to demonstrate?
Okay, I do not demonstrate dancing. I demonstrate individual steps. I've found that if you bring in angels to dance, everybody sits and thinks, I can't do that, because the angels are rehearsed. I have a few of the farmer's jig, not enough to go around, but we can get copies made and have them at the front desk, I think. Okay, now with the dancing with kids, I do kindergarten, and usually the schools break them down, kindergarten through second, third and fourth, or third, fourth, and fifth, depending on whether they divide the middle school from fifth grade or sixth grade. But the material that I use for them is age appropriate. I might use farmer's jig if they're really well coordinated and take the whole time just to teach that one dance. But usually with the little ones, I'm teaching more walking to the music, counting your steps, reversing your steps, and so forth. Circling with a partner, hooking elbows and swinging with a partner, that kind of thing. That will be covered in the education session rather than Contra traditional.
Yeah. One of the things that you can do with really little kids is a lot of hand clapping. You can have them face their partner or their opposite and clap right hands 3 times, left hand 3 times, both hands, and then do like a 2-hand circle once around or something like that. And with that sort of an idea, you can work with very small children.
And kids catch on to patterns much better than grown-ups do. One of the things that I have in my case when I go out to work in schools is a roll of white tape that is used in gymnasiums. It's like a masking tape, but it's a temporary tape. You can put it down on a rug or on a floor and peel it right back up again. You can buy it in school supply stores where they sell teacher supplies. And frequently, if I want them in a particular pattern, or if I want them on spokes of a wheel, I just take the tape and go across the floor until I've got a star or a circle or a square or whatever. And when they've seen it once, then it's in their mind. You can pull the tape up, and a month later you come back and they know exactly where that line was, and they'll get way off center just to stand where that square used to be.
Boy, I tell you what, I didn't get my hand on you, Nee. I'm sorry. A couple of things that I would like to put out here that you need to understand our personal opinion. I can assure you, and I think almost anyone else who has called traditional square dancing, that it evolves. That the traditional square dancing that was defined by some people 25 years ago is not the traditional dancing today. I've got a dear friend who now hash calls traditional calls. And I would have some people come up who would find that as an absolute sin. To me, I've occasionally gone around and asked traditional callers to define for me what they felt was traditional. I have yet to get 2 answers alike. We had one caller gentleman assured me he did nothing that was that was newer than 200 years old. And this was his definition of what was traditional. A lot of people will get a dividing line about 1949 or 1950, and everything then prior to that time is traditional. About the only real difference, or 2 or 3 differences that I can see between what is now kind of termed traditional style calling or traditional style dancing is, number one, the vocabulary. In other words, we have an expanded set of terminology or a different set of terminology that we use within traditional community that is not defined as one of the several lists that we have that we use for square dancing. Net result is that there are probably more things that we can do that require being shown within the traditional community than we do within modern Western square dancing. It's not to say there isn't an equal amount of variety in both, but there are different kinds of variety, different kinds of things that you do. More of traditional dancing is built around choreography as set pieces than we have in square dancing. Square dancing is spontaneity, and you're supposed to be able to listen and do as soon as you recognize the call. A great deal of what is done in the traditional sense or the classic sense is done with set routines that basically, once you go through the routine, you know you're going to be going through the same routine a number of different times. If you think about it, this really has value. It has value in many areas, and if you look at the whole scope of dancing in its entirety, most dancing that has been surviving for the last 1,000 years has been built around routines. It's built around set pieces of where people, once they start into a routine, they know what's coming next, and they refine it. And the challenge is as much to refine it and dance it better as the music goes on, rather than being surprised. If you go to a Scottish dance and dance Scottish quadrilles, I can assure you it's this way. If you go most any other kind of dance form, the patterns are there. And so maybe this tells us that there is a large part of the population that likes this kind of dancing. Makes sense? And this is part of what's important to them. Certainly, if you're working with children like Yona is working with them, one of the things that we're going to hopefully eventually get back into is working in schools. I will encourage you very strongly to use set patterns and set routines, because the children love these sort of things, and they will not probably start enjoying what we currently have as modern Western square dancing until they're about the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. At that point in time, the puzzle aspect starts to get place where it's fairly fascinating. But up until that point in time, if you try and call to them in the non-traditional sense, you're probably going to run up against a fair amount of lack of success within this environment. Okay, a couple of things that I wanted to kind of see where the group was as a whole. How many of you have not contra danced or been through a contra dance progression? Hold up your hand. Have not. In other words, we're talking partially to the choir here, right? Okay, you don't hold up your hand, Stu. To let you know, Stu Shackler is here for the purposes of the tape, and Stu has been around longer than I have. And that's going some. To me, traditional is a moving target. And so what I'm going to show you in a couple of figures this afternoon in dances, I consider to be traditional because in the sense they're a set pattern, and they've been around for as long as I have, or at least, quite a bit of time, but they're not necessarily traditional as defined by other people. I need to have 5 pairs up here. Five couples. And I want you set up as if the heads had led right and circled up 4, so we have 2 facing lines of 4, and then I want 1 couple at the head of the set. Need 2 more, if we could have up here, and then a couple to come on up and stand at the head of the set. This is one of the dances that I can, that's right. So we got a horseshoe shape composed of 5 people. This is one of the dances that I've had a tremendous amount of success using in pleasing modern Western square dances. I never tell them it's traditional because it's probably not. I never tell them it's prompted. I just say we're going to dance with 5 couples in a set. Sneaky, right? All right. The facing lines of 4 do a right and left through. The couple at the head of the set go halfway down and stop. Facing, do a right and left back. The lone couple go out the end, separate, come up the outside back to home, while everybody else is circling up 4. 4. Cross the set. Okay, while they're coming up the outside, I won't be able to talk the instructions to the lone couple here at the head. So you need to be paying attention to what they're doing, because I've got enough trouble trying to get the words out for what the other 4 pairs are doing, all right? Face your partner and do a do-si-do. Everybody, God, what is it? Levi Jackson, yeah. They promenade or swing here. Oh, that's right. 5 ladies chain 3/5. Now, you're going to leave the one you've got. That's number 1. Look at him and say, you're 1. Go to number 2 and say, bye, I don't want you. And then go to 3 and say, I do want you. 5 ladies chain 3/5. Go. Hi, bye, you're mine. Okay? Start again. 5 ladies chain 3/5. Hi, bye, you're mine. All right? Now, gentlemen, the thing that you need to understand, that all the way through this set, you're always going to get the lady from the same gent. And it's up to you to keep them straight, because the poor ladies are 5 of them in there saying, my golly, where am I going? I haven't got a clue. Everybody move 1 position to the right. Face your partner, balance and swing. Okay? All right. Now, one more time. Head couple, or head facers right and left through. Head couples down the center half. Facers right and left back. Head couples out the end, separate around phone. Facers circle up 4. Everybody face your partner, do-si-do. 5 ladies chain 3/5. Go. Hi, bye, you're mine. Hi, bye, you're mine. Promenade 1 position. Swing, balance and swing. Now, when I do this with square dancers, I give them breathing room at 2 different places, because I'm very well aware of the fact that this is totally foreign to them and they need breathing room. For one thing, notice that in this particular room, how your set has spread. And this is very typical for people to do. They tend to want to spread the set, and the people who are experienced with this dances know that you cuddle up elbow to elbow or you ain't going to make it. And so I provide breathing room at 2 different points. The first one is I eliminate the do-si-do and say stabilize your set and just wait, we'll go in a minute. And I eliminate the end swing. For square dancers who have never done this particular dance before, because they need the time. Alrighty, let me get the music. Maybe I already put it in.
You might mention when the ladies have done their chain 2 times.
Right here. Okay, Levi Jackson Reg. This music is on the Lloyd Shaw label. It is a Levi Jackson Reg. I do not have the number because it's on mini disc. Watch it. Right and through. Halfway down, right and back. Circle up 4 out the ends. Come all the way around to home. And what I do with square dance at this point in time, I just say stabilize. 5 ladies chain. Do it again. Promenade 1 position. Set up your formation, breathe. Heads, facers right and left through. Halfway down. Right and left back. Circle. Do-si-do. 5 ladies chain. Again. 1 position. Tighten up your set. Okay? Facers, right and left through. Right and left back. Circle. Do-si-do. 5 ladies chain. Again. One position, this time facer, balance, and swing. Okay, good. Got the routine? Yeah. There are many points in this dance that make it an excellent one for introducing prompted dances. Number one, in this particular figure, you tell me, didn't it feel different every position? I mean, you are in a different slot on the floor, and it's like being in a brand new place. We like to think in teaching, I'd always like to tell the people who are learning how to teach that you have to remember that every time you change the formation, it's a brand new figure. And in this case, we've got a brand new figure 5 times in a row. All right, it's not very far away from what they're used to in square dancing. It's a horseshoe shape, but it's not that foreign to them, and usually I don't tell them. Part of it, the reason I can probably get away with it, is the fact that my particular style of calling, I try and hand the dancer what I call the music. In other words, when we're prompting, for those of you who have never prompted before, if you will notice, everything that I delivered in terms of instruction was ahead of when they were to do it in order to be able to do it in time with the music. And I tend to call this way, so maybe I get away with a little bit more than someone who has dancers that aren't used to this sort of a pattern. But this becomes a very, very useful dance and very usable. The other thing is, listen to the music. This is one of the best fiddle players in the world. I mean, this guy is absolutely exciting, and the music drives. Okay, the music drives the dance. Right. Let's get one more couple up and form contra lines. All the men with their back to this wall on my right, all the ladies facing across on their left, and we need one more couple up. Okay, this particular routine is in Betsy's notes, and since she didn't do it, I'm going to steal it from her. This is one of the easiest routines to me to show people the progression of what happens in contra dancing. In other words, we got to convince them somehow that this isn't real hard, all right? So if we have 1, 3, 5 crossed over and active, when you're talking to square dancers, I don't make a big deal out of being active or inactive. What I do is say, I want you to imagine that you're going to get instruction just like heads and sides, or we're going to change the terminology a little bit. And if you're now a man and you have your back to this wall, to my left for the purposes of the tape, and a lady with your back to the wall on my right, you're now considered to be active. And so just like in a square dance, every time you got to this position, you would be considered to be in that position or called active. We only have 2 positions in this particular style of dancing in contras. We have actives and inactives, and the inactives are not inactive. It's just a way of being able to give people instructions, and usually the square dancers look at me, nod their head, and say, okay, I can absorb that. The problem comes with the progression. Face your corner and do a do-sa-do. Corner swing. Face across the set, and without very little problem with square dancers, they will put the girl on the right because it's been drummed into our head ad infinitum. All right? Put her on the right. Go down the center in 4 in line often causes problems. Now, what you can do is say, bend the line and face away from me until you form lines of 4, and most of them will see the bend part. The one that they do not do now, how long has it been since many of you have ever called a wheel around? Long time since you've used it in a square? Yeah, I would imagine. Okay, go down in 4. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wheel around. Oh, you're lovely. Come back up to place. Usually the dancers are just kind of a mishmash. as they try and figure out who's going to go forward and who's going to go back up. Why? Because we don't often use wheel around in square dancing in the modern Western square dance sense. And so oftentimes you will have to reteach the concept of the man backing up, the lady walking forward. Bend the line, back up. Notice the prompt words, back up. Because what I want them to do is bend the line and get away from each other so the next figure makes sense. If they bend the line like we do in square dancing, you end up face to belly, belly to belly. And so I put in the prompt words, back up, and right and left through. And the ladies chain. Now here's where the progression part works real good as far as for explaining how it goes. Circle up 4 once around and a quarter more. Now, if you're facing down the set as this thing goes on and we dance more and more through the set, you're going to go the same direction you're now facing. Nod your head, you understand. All right? So if you're coming toward me, you're going to continue to come toward me as the routine goes through time after time until you get clear of the head of the set. And then we got a problem we got to solve. So pass through. Notice that we now have a couple at the head of the set who have nobody facing them, and a couple at the foot of the set have nobody facing them. You guys do a California twirl. Don't fight them. Or a partner trade. You can, if you don't use California twirl, do partner trade. All right. The rest of you are going to get to dance for a while, and the two people looking in get to judge whether or not it looks right. All right. Once again, face the corner, do-sa-do. Corner swing. Put her on the right. Go down in 4. Oh my God, we got a problem. The couple at the foot of the set had better back up or he's going to get run over. Wheel around, come back to place. Bend the line, back up, and right and left through. 2 ladies chain. Circle up 4 once and a quarter more. Pass through, and we now have the other couples inactive. Now, what did I say? Once you're facing at this point, you're going to continue in the direction you're now headed, all the way down and all the way back. This seems to be a reasonable explanation of square dancers. In other words, you're not really trying to explain it as progression, but they get the idea that from this particular circle, from this position, they're going to keep going down the floor or coming up the floor until something else happens. And so this is a way of being able to get in their heads the progression of what happens in contras. Make sense? I don't think we need to dance this, just so you understand what's happening. Just to dance it would not do it. It's called inflation reel. It was written by Tony Parks. The reason it is called inflation reel, Tony tells me, is because you circle up 4 and there's a quarter more, and that's the inflation part. And so that was the reason Tony called this dance inflation reel. And it's been around since what, the late 40s, early 50s? What do you think? Something like that. All righty? Good, people. Sit down and relax a little bit. Okay?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Stu, do you remember when Levi Jackson Rag was written? It was Pat Shaw's dance, 1960 something, in Kentucky.
Yeah, they had a building that they were dancing in and had a pool out there built. So they had to develop a dance that was a dance and still had a pool out there built. And this is the dance.
Stu Shacklet says the Levi Jackson Rag that Cal called before was written by Pat Shaw to dance around a center pole at Levi Jackson State Park. Building's now burned down. I understand they have a much better dancing facility. But that was in 1960, wasn't it? 1950? Yeah. It's not really traditional. It's in the traditional manner. Thank you, Betsy, for the water.
Yeah, it's not traditional in that sense. Betsy?
One of the things I was going to say, Cal was talking about reteaching reel around. You can kind of get people comfortable, etc., by saying it will feel similar to a courtesy turn without assuming the position, so to speak.
A war story. Sometimes we get in a position of where we are very much in a pattern of almost being afraid to do things like this within our square dancing. And I have had certainly clubs that I have pulled some of this stuff on that I've never gotten invited back to. So you need to understand. I mean, there are certain groups of dancers out there that absolutely raise Cain. I went to I think it was Birmingham, and they had me come in to do a traditional dance session. I followed John Jones in the mainstream workshop, and I got on the mic before the people got out the door, and I said, "Square up." I did dip and dive. I did birdie in the cage. I did the dish rag turn on the duck for the oyster and dig for the clam, and several of the figures like this. At the end, I was at 4:30. People were hungry. I mean, it really was not the prize spot that we got for this particular session, but I followed up John Jones. And so I had a whole bunch of these people out here. At the end of the session, we still had 6 sets. Now, admittedly, John had 16, but we still had 6 sets. And I had a number of people come up and say, "That's the most fun we've had in a long time. Where do you learn how to do this stuff?" And so even though we're dealing with people with a different mindset than we probably think will appreciate this, you may find it's very amazing how many do. Go.
I was going to go back to what Cal was talking about with the prompt calling. For those of us who call modern club square dancing, we don't prompt anything except perhaps sides, face, grand, square, and I've even heard that done not what I consider correctly. If you need to start to listen to someone who is prompting so that the dancers can start on the downbeat, listen to your round dance cuer. Your round dance cuer says the command for the round so that the dancers can start on the downbeat of the next phrase of the music. That is where that prompt calling is done in modern clubs today, where all the callers deliver sides, face, grand, square so that you can start on the downbeat. That is someplace where you see it, and in the round dancing primarily. So that's one venue for you to start to listen to how people do this. When I am trying to work with people to get it started, you need to know how long it takes you to say a set of words and then count back in the musical phrase. So if it takes you 4 beats to say it, you need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, sides, face, grand, square, boom, they start.
1, 2. I'm Stu Shacklet. I am the education chairman for ContraLab, and ContraLab has, in our wisdom, tried to develop a self-paced teaching program that would teach you how to prompt Contra. And it goes through the same thing at we were just talking about here, where you're learning how to put the call to the musical phrase, how to identify the musical phrase, where to find the musical phrase, how many musical phrases are there, and how the basic patterns fit to the musical phrases. And that's the beauty between square dancing and contra dancing, is that in contra, the dancers start on the first beat of the musical phrase. They don't feel like they're hurried then to do an 8-count figure in 8 counts. But in square dancing, it's called on the first beat. The dancers start on the second or third, and they feel they've got to finish by that musical phrase, which is 8 counts, so they hurry to get there. So it's a pushing type experience in square dancing rather than you have in contra dancing. This is through ContraLab, and it has 6 lessons. The first thing is the glossary of terms, and it's very closely related to what Yona is doing here in her glossary of terms. And each lesson is self-paced with some type of response that you have to make to what you've learned in the lesson. These are sent back to ContraLab members. We evaluate what you have done, send them back to you and say, hey, you're doing a good job, keep at it, or hey, this was wrong, go back and redo this type of thing. So you get immediate feedback to what you're doing. This is available through ContraLab if anybody's interested on this. And I am the education chairman, so I appreciate the opportunity that you let me talk about that.
Okay, if we have other questions, would you please come to one of these 2 mics? We were supposed to have a portable. It didn't show. Okay.
There's an audio tape that goes with it.
There's an audio tape that goes with it. I've just been leaning over my shoulder and been told that. Would you let's kind of peg 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Not quite on. I'm Dick Krause. I'm from Northern Illinois. I've been in the activity about 35 years, but I think I consider myself a perennial novice when it comes to this segment of the activity. I heard some things from Yona this morning that certainly stimulate some thoughts, and I just wanted to pass along a couple of notes. Some of my square dancers love to do this to a certain percentage of the time. I don't think they want a steady diet of it, but they really enjoy the variety, and I would encourage a lot of you to try it if you haven't done it. Another thing that I found very helpful, I look around the room, I see some familiar names. Some of you are aware of the square dance callers list. There's also a traditional square dance list on the internet, and there are some wonderful people on there who unfortunately don't belong to this organization. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. About 3 days, no, water won't help. This is the dry air. I used to live in Arizona, but I can't get accustomed to this again. In any event, those of you who are electronically connected and don't take advantage of some of the incredible material and the knowledge that's on that square dance, the traditional board, should find out how to address it. Maybe, Cal, you can touch on that and take part in that. And then thirdly, in my area, they have something called the Chicago Barn Dance. I don't see any of my colleagues in the room, and unfortunately, I found their webpage, which is wonderful, by searching through the St. Louis Square Dance webpage. So there's also additional information on the web regarding traditional dancing through some of these localized organizations.
Don Thompson from San Jose, from the San Francisco Bay Area. I apologize for arriving late because I had to make a quick run to the post office. You know, it's date to mail the tax stuff, right? Anyway, the reason I say I bring that up is I don't know how many of you may have taken a poll earlier to find out how many of you are familiar, veterans of this part of the activity, how many of you have never seen it, whatever. For those that might have trouble with things like the prompting or the dancing of the Contras, here's a suggestion that will jump you light years ahead. Go find, as I just mentioned, go find the group in your area. There's bound to be an organization that holds this type of dancing, and go dance. You can't learn to prompt faster than having to be on the floor and dance it. Right? Everybody's had that experience. In the San Francisco Bay Area, there, for anybody that might visit, might be interested, there's a Bay Area Country Dance Society. And I could go on for a better part of an hour describing my experience going to a couple of their dances and what they're about. But that thing just, put me right there in the groove to understand what's going on. So go do that. The only other thing I'd say is we should really push next year for this group when we get a meeting hall to have a wood floor.
In your dream.
Yeah, I just started. I'm kind of limited experience, but I help out as a co-caller for a small senior citizen group on Saturday mornings. And I started, our class members at our club told me about the Contra Society, and they have a whole new circuit. It's like square dance. They have their major callers, and they have their list of all the areas. But what I've done at the small group I'm at is I've introduced a Contra once a month. I call it a monthly Contra tip. And we've just finished the fourth one, and now they're starting to enjoy it. But the thing that is the most difficult thing, it's not the squares, it's not the calls, except the lines of four going down. It's when they're out at the top or the bottom or above and below. They get totally confused. And it's very important when you do your tip to figure it out at home. And so you have simple ways to explain to them when they're out and when they're supposed to switch. And then it'll make it easier for you and they'll catch on quicker. Because that's where I had all my problems. And what I find interesting is when you go to Contra, they don't tell you what happens. And they have intricate figures sometimes. I get totally lost. I got to go through it and see what happens and have some experienced dancer drag me along. But I've been there about maybe 12 times. Not one teacher has taught what happens at the top and the bottom. They don't talk about it. And I find that strange. I don't know whether they don't know it or they don't practice it enough, but that's very important to know how they get back in and how they get back out. Like if you have an even number of couples, every other sequence is going to be in and out, the top and bottom. If there's an odd number of couples, then every 64-beat sequence is out at the top and then out at the bottom and alternates. So that's important too, because you get confused. And sometimes the dancers look at you and you have to kind of tell them to switch as you're calling. But that helps a lot when you know what's happening at the top and bottom. That's where I found the dancers mess up.
I found that in the traditional contra halls, quite often they assume that everybody there knows what they're doing, and so they don't tell you those little things. Our contra program at home, I am one of 5 callers in that program. Some are regarded as callers in training, and some are regarded as backup callers. But we usually invite the dancers to come. The first half hour is experienced contra. That gets the experienced dancers there early to do the fun stuff, like hash contras. They've just discovered those. Then they have a half hour for beginners of simple stuff like do ladies chain if you've never done it. And that's when they explain what you do at the end. When I'm teaching a dance, specific dance, I usually pick something in the dance that the people who are waiting out can use as their cue. If there's a left-hand star to progress to the next corner, I'll say, when you hear me say star left, the people at the end star through, and you'll be ready to go down. Or if some other thinking within that particular dance, I'll use that as a cue to the people who are waiting out.
Okay, a quick note. It's probably still the best book on contra dancing for a complete explanation is Contra Dancing by Don Armstrong. It's published by the Lloyd Shaw Foundation Sales Division, P.O. Box 11, Max Creek, Missouri, 65786. I think the book is still $9 or $10. It's excellent. If you're interested in another one, Dancing for Busy People, there's about 50-some contras and Lord knows what else in there. Take a look at it and see whether or not you like it. It's published by Cal Campbell. It's sold by Supreme Audio here. Cal Campbell, Bob Howell, Ken Kerner.
I'm gonna add one more thing about changing out at the top and the bottom. I have as I said, a group of seniors who dance kind of the basic program. What they dance depends on who happens to show up that night. Perfectly honest. There was one time when our club president, they needed one more person to make a third square, and she went down the hall and persuaded somebody on the exercise bike to come and learn square dancing.
Would you all give yourselves a hand?
Well, wait, let me finish one thing. So I tell them when they're waiting out, I tell them to change right away so that they don't get lost. And I told them, if you do not change sides with your partner when you run out of people, you will change sex. I would prefer you to change sides.
Let's give a big hand to Betsy Gata. Yona Chock.